All right, let's talk about it. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. I mean, you hear these terms thrown around everywhere, right? But what do they actually mean? If you've ever felt like they're just a bunch of confusing buzzwords, don't worry. You're in exactly the right place. We are going to get this straight once and for all.
And look, if you're feeling a little bit lost, you are definitely not alone. I mean, these terms get tossed around and used interchangeably all the time, in the news, in marketing, you name it. It's no wonder it creates so much confusion. But here's the good news. The real difference between them is actually surprisingly simple once you see it all laid out.
And that is exactly what we are going to do right now. We're going to break down each of these concepts one by one. We use really simple definitions and real-world examples that actually, make sense. No crazy jargon, I promise. Just pure clarity.
So here's the game plan. First, we're going to tackle the big umbrella, AI. Then, we'll dive into the learning machine, which is ML. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty with the digital brain of deep learning. And once we've got those down, we'll put it all together and figure out why on earth everyone just says AI for everything. Sound good? Let's jump in.
All right, first up, artificial intelligence, or AI. You got to think of this as the big umbrella. This is our starting point because it's the absolute broadest category of them all. It's the whole field of study, really.
So the key thing to get here is that AI is all about the goal. It's this grand ambition of making a machine do something that normally requires human smarts. We're talking about things like seeing, making decisions, or, even playing games like chess. It's the big, overarching dream of the entire field. Okay, this next idea is maybe the most important one to lock in. It's a super helpful way to picture this. Think of AI as the entire universe. Now, somewhere inside that massive universe, there's a planet called machine learning. And on that planet, there's a really important, really powerful country called deep learning. See how that works? They're not totally separate things. They're nested inside each other, going from the biggest and broadest all the way down to the most specific.
And this right here perfectly shows how much AI has changed over the years. The old school AI was all about rules. I mean, a human programmer would literally sit there and write out every single instruction. If the patient has a fever and a cough, then say they have the flu. It worked, but it was super rigid. Modern AI, totally different game. The machine learns the rules all by itself, just by looking at tons and tons of examples.
Okay, so that idea of learning from examples, that leads us perfectly to our next layer down, machine learning. Remember our analogy? If AI is the whole universe, then machine learning is the planet we're landing on. This is where that whole idea of a machine learning really truly comes to life.
So you can think of machine learning, or ML, as a way to achieve AI. It's a specific approach. Instead of handing the machine a giant pre-written rulebook, you just give it a ton of data and say, here, you figure out the patterns. It's all about learning from experience, not just blindly following a set of orders.
Yeah, this quote really gets to the heart of it. We've moved away from the grunt work of manually writing every single rule. Now it's all about training a model with data. It's a huge shift in thinking. We've gone from programming to teaching. And there are a few different ways it learns. You've got supervised learning, which is kind of like using flashcards with a student. You give it the question and the right answer. Then there's unsupervised learning, where you just dump a bunch of data and ask it to find any interesting patterns or groups on its own. And finally, there's reinforcement learning, which is all about trial and error. Think of it like training a dog with treats, or an AI learning to play chess by getting rewarded for good moves.
Want a perfect, real-world example? Just look at your email spam filter. Seriously, nobody sat down and wrote a rule for every possible spam email out there. That would be impossible. Instead, the system just looked at millions and millions of emails that people had marked as spam or not spam, and it learned to spot the patterns itself. That's machine learning, working behind the scenes for you every single day.
Okay, time to zoom in one more level. We're going to that super famous, most talked about country on our planet of machine learning. We're talking about deep learning. And let me tell you, this is the powerhouse behind pretty much all the mind-blowing AI breakthroughs you're hearing about in the news right now.
So, what is deep learning? Well, it's a very specific, very powerful kind of machine learning. Its secret sauce is something called a neural network, which is a computer system that's kind of loosely inspired by the structure of the human brain. And the deep part? That just means the network has lots and lots of layers. Having all those layers is what lets it learn these incredibly complex patterns from just vast amounts of data.
So, how do these layers actually work? Well, imagine the system is trying to recognize a face in a photo.
The very first layer might just see really simple stuff, like basic shapes, edges, and curves. Then, the next layer up takes those edges and combines them into something more recognizable, like eyes, a nose, a mouth. And then the final layer puts all those pieces together to see the complete face. It's this amazing hierarchy, building understanding from the simplest little bits to the most complex whole.
And that powerful layered approach is what makes all the cool stuff possible. We're talking about the Face ID on your phone, voice assistants like Siri and Alexa, and of course, the big one everyone's talking about, ChatGPT. All of those technologies are powered by deep learning.
Okay, so we've visited the universe, we've explored the planet, and we've toured the country. Now let's pull all the way back out and look at the entire map one more time, just to make sure it's all crystal clear.
Think of this as your 10-second summary, your ultimate cheat sheet. AI is the big, broad idea, making a machine do anything intelligent, like a classic chess computer. Machine learning is a way of doing that, specifically by learning from data, like your spam filter. And deep learning is a super advanced type of machine learning that uses a digital brain, and that's what powers Face ID on your phone. See? Simple.
Now here's another huge difference between them, the resources they need. That old-school, rule-based AI, pretty lightweight, doesn't need much. Machine learning needs a good chunk of data to learn from. But deep learning, oh man, deep learning is a beast. It is incredibly hungry for two things: massive data sets and a ton of computing power. That's actually why it's only really taken off in recent years. We finally have the big data and the powerful GPUs needed to feed it. Which brings us to our final and maybe most important question. If these things are all different, why does everyone, and I mean everyone, just lump it all together and call everything AI?
Well, the simple answer is that AI is just easy. It's the catch-all term. You can think of it as the brand name for the entire field. It's just so much simpler for a company to say they're using AI to generate images than to get into the super technical weeds and say, we're using a generative adversarial network, a type of deep learning model. AI just sounds better.
And if you look at what's driving all the hype around AI today, ChatGPT, self-driving cars, incredible image generators, pretty much all of it is actually deep learning. You could say deep learning is the star quarterback, but the name on the front of the jersey is just AI.
So let's nail this down one last time so it really sticks. AI is the big goal, machines behaving intelligently. Machine learning is a method to get there, systems that learn from data. And deep learning is a special, powerful type of machine learning that uses those multi-layered neural networks. And remember the funnel. AI is a big container, ML is inside of it, and DL is inside of that. Simple as that. Now you really know the difference.
So there you have it. You're not confused anymore. You're in the know. You can see that clear hierarchy, and you understand the real engine that's driving all this magic. So the only real question left is, now that we know how it works, what are we all going to build with it next?